So let us go to our first official question. Okay, so let's start, company structure. How are AI and automation teams organized?
This is a very broad question. So I'm going to start by saying, to me, what is AI and what is automation? To me, they're two different things, right? Artificial intelligence, if you think about it, is ways and means of creating, I would say, packets of knowledge. And right now, I know we talk about AI in a bigger umbrella, but if you really break it down of what's achievable in today's scenario, they are narrow focused. They solve specific big business problems, so they are based on mostly pattern recognition, data-based, right? And learning. So machine learning playing a big part in artificial intelligence. Whereas when you talk about automations, I think of intelligent automation, which is business process automation, which to me is very different in the sense that that is more process centric than data centric. It's more like, what are you doing today that I can sit down and automate given the capabilities that exist today? So to me, because they are different, um, I look at it differently. What happens now in industries today is companies kind of don't really understand the difference or don't really have a big play in each one of them. So they have set up, say, one department to cover both, right? They focus on transformation services, and within that, they would have like two groups of people working on two different things.
Got it. And then you're sitting on the, intelligent automation side.
Mm-hmm. My expertise is in intelligent automation. I have done artificial intelligence because what happens is when you do intelligent automation, if you really want to automate, you have to also look at places in that process where people are making decisions, right? And when someone makes decisions, you can actually enable ways of how to make it automated by artificial intelligence. And that's why I said narrow focus. We use AI in the sense of if you think of reading forms, that's a form of AI, right? To write forms is a form of AI because what you're doing, if you break it down into steps, is you're actually reading through, which means you're using your eyes, then you're using your mind to understand the language behind it, and then you're kind of depicting or getting the essence out of that information. So to do that, you actually do use a form of AI, which nowadays is called machine reading and or OCR plus ML, which gives you that reading forms and writing forms. So yes, we do use AI interspersed with the process to automate the process with low touch, no touch.
I'm with you. And then we'll get more into like the sort of applications in a bit. And then to return, right, so with structure, so I think you were telling me before, there's like an intelligent automation center of excellence, and then
Mm-hmm.
there's the machine learning separate center of excellence. And I
Yep.
guess and then and then is there a third center of excellence that coordinates between the two? Or I guess what does center of excellence mean exactly within Sprint? Yeah.
So let me answer this within Sprint and outside, because with Sprint, we have gone through a journey almost, right? And actually, I talked about that journey in the Automation Anywhere Imagine seminar. If you care to see, basically, we started saying, hey, we'll just do automation. Then we realized with the Center of Excellence in Intelligent Automation that we started with a complete central control, meaning like, everything comes to the center and then we execute, right? Then we saw that for intelligent automation, it really doesn't work because it has to be encompassing people who know their business processes, who understand what automation is, and then they can come and say, this is how you do it, right? So we started with that. Then we moved to a federated journey where, the business units became responsible for their own automations. And then we realized that when that happens, people are coming up with ideas, but those ideas are not of very high value. If you really want to go for true transformational thoughts and true transformational values, which can be high value, it has to be top driven. So right now, Sprint has settled down into this hybrid model. We have a center of excellence, which means like we kind of try to help the BUs with understanding where those opportunities are. Sometimes train them, teach them with what automation can and cannot do. Sometimes leverage components where someone else might have used it, and we say, hey, why don't we connect you too, and you can learn from each other. So it's called almost like a glue. It's not a governing body as much other than the intake. So we try to centralize the intake so that we can get the learnings out of it, but mostly to help people execute their own work and automate, right? And then if necessary, because in each company, end of the day, the execution itself might be IT centric many times, or components of IT coming in, right? So we kind of engage IT wherever necessary with that process.
Yeah, understood. Right, and then interesting point you bring up in just educating individual business units. And so how big of a part, of the IA or the AI COE is really just, yeah, internal education to equip, individual business leaders to understand how they can actually leverage, the COEs that exist.
Oh, very big, I would say. In fact, there are different levels of engagement at that point, right? So you want to engage at the top level to show them how it can bring value to the organization and how it's used and how the peers are using it, how other places are using it. Even if it's not in telecom industry, there could be other industries using it or more ahead with automation. Whereas, within telecom, there could be very specific needs, right? When it comes to artificial intelligence, it becomes very telecom specific because the data sets are different. There is kind of different flavors, different asks. So that becomes very specific to what's your problem at hand, how we can help you with the data we have gathered so far, right? Whereas with automation, you can actually leverage what, say, a healthcare industry or a finance industry has done for their HR or for their finance or for their care customers, things like that, and you can bring it in and start using them and showing value to the top level. At the middle level, it's more about, education on how automation can help you versus take your job away, because there is a lot of fear and apprehension, right, about change. And of course, any transformational, um, you know, ability that we bring with us always triggers change. So it's a change of way to do business. So with the middle layer, it's more of, listen, we'll give you a bot, and the bot will be your assistant trying to help you with your work, right? So that's the messaging, right? And at the bottom level, it's more about, hey, do you like spending all this time that you do with copying, pasting, or typing things from a form, or moving data from one system to another? No, no one likes those things. So we kind of help automate that so that they can do better work, and sometimes also bring down the busy work because no one wants to do that.
Yeah. Yeah, but it's funny to think about, right? So, let's say the intelligent automation COE, your group comes
Mhm.
up with some really cool, internal product to automate something. And then you have
Mhm.
to go, it sounds like on like a little mini roadshow internally to pitch to people like why they should adopt this new practice.
Absolutely. So what we do is actually business comes up, we kind of implement one, we start using that as a success story, and that kind of attracts other people because at the end of the day, it's all about doing it, right? And showing the value. It's all about show me. So we do a lot of success stories and kind of propagate that and say, this is how you can do value. This is what it was before, and this is what is after, and this is what it gave, right? And a lot of it has to do with, like I said, educating on the capability of what it can do because it's so new. Many people can't stitch all the capabilities together to see the big picture.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a very interesting problem. Do you ever, run into where, the COE will come up with some solution and
Mhm.
you're just getting like it's clear it's a good solution, but you're just getting pushback, pushback, pushback. Is it the kind of situation where, you'll take feedback, go back to the drawing board, edit it, or you'll just kind of jam it down people's throats and be like, this is what's happening?
It depends on your leadership style. My leadership style is more of understanding and adopting. So at Sprint, we went through the same journey where we started, like I said, with one way of running the COE. We found out that that was creating pains. So we kind of changed our process, right? But the solution itself actually is driven from understanding the business pain points. So basically, we are here to kind of alleviate your pain point, right? That's the whole idea. So
Yeah.
when we kind of come up with a solution, people are more excited to adopt than not.
Yeah. Yeah, I
It's
totally get
not
that.
an IT solution that everyone has to adopt, right? It is your problem, your solution that we are catering to.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, cool. Let's move on to question number two. And again, if anyone has any questions that pop into their head, just type them in the chat and we'll get to them.
Right.
Okay, so now I want like a story, Shipra.
Mm-hmm.
How does an automation project come to life? Like from the initial business problem through the implementation and even, post implementation maintenance. How does this actually happen?
So, two things. First of all, automation projects, and I'll talk about intelligent automation projects here, right? I'll break it out into three almost phases of life, if you mind, right? The first part is trying to understand the opportunity. That itself is actually pretty complex. The reason it's complex is you can come up with an idea, right? You're doing your process today, and you come up with an idea two ways. Either you want to make the process better, or you just want to automate what you have today, right? What we look for immediate solutioning is what do you have today that we can automate? Because we know what the process is then. We don't have to reinvent the process. When people come up with thinking of changing the process and bringing automation, it becomes more difficult, right? And this is when it comes up from ground up, when people come up with ideas and ideation. However, it could be so that, instead of people coming up with ideas, there is an initiative from the top saying, listen, guys, you have so many people, I'm going to drop your budget by, say, 25%. So go figure out how you're going to do it. And that sometimes drives automation because, that's the only way you can achieve that budget reduction. There is no other way at that point. And that's a different kind of engagement that comes in with the opportunity, where you look from the top, you say, where is the most resources getting impacted, right? Try to see if you can automate those and then change them to retrain to something else. So I think project of top down versus bottom up is very different in automation world and how it's handled, right? But once that opportunity comes up, you definitely want to show value for each one of them. The value could be direct, could be indirect, could be hours saved, could be bottom line, could be compliance. There are different aspects of value that you can show. Also, it could be engagement, like a consistent behavior is always. I think a consumer appreciates a consistent behavior way more than inconsistent behavior or unexpected behavior, right? So that kind of also brings automation to the focus, saying there is value to it. What you do next is during the build itself, there could be two ways of building it. If it's simple enough, the business units can do it themselves. There are tools out there which are low code, no code, right? You can do your own automation depending on what you're using, like say Alteryx, right? You can do your own drag and drop and create a automation process for yourself to move the data. Or you can use some, RDA tools to do that, right? But when it becomes very complex, when it becomes that there is security concerns, there's capture involved, there is, other sources that you don't have control over that you want to do, you bring in IT who kind of does these projects for you, right? So that's the build part. And then when it comes to actually maintaining and running these, this is my philosophy. If it's an intelligent automation process, that means there needs to be a process owner. When you have a process owner, that person is responsible for the process, which means, in old days, all projects used to be IT support, right? For intelligent automation, it's actually business coming in because think of a bot as being an assistant to you, right? So if the bot kind of comes up and it doesn't work properly, you should understand why as a business owner. It could be that you have exception use cases coming in, and the bot can't handle it. As a business owner, you need to know, do you want to retrain the bot or do you want to manage it by people, right? How much of exceptions are coming in? So that's why business owner engagement during the maintenance is so important for automation. Of course, there are other things like there could be IT changes triggered by IT, and IT comes in and changes those, and IT is responsible. So it's a complete joint ownership when it comes to maintaining bots and maintaining automations.
Got it. Okay. So, right. So the journey. Also, Shipra, can you tilt your camera down a little bit? Is that possible?
Yeah.
There you go. Yeah, it is better. Um, um, okay. So, right. So the journey is at the beginning, you either have this top down, okay, this unit costs too much. And
Mhm.
so this is now becoming an intelligent automation project because that's the only way we're going to cut costs.
Right.
And so that's the top down version. And then bottom up version is right. Person is annoyed their team has to, do this manual thing over and over again. They come to the COE. and then you're like, okay, we'll do this for your team.
Right.
Okay, and then
Automations. Now, if you look at artificial intelligence, AI, that goes in a different direction though, because that is more based on what data sets do we have? Can we leverage this to do decision making? Can we leverage this to identify patterns that can help us with our business, right? So those projects actually are driven very differently.
that's interesting. I guess it's funny. I mean, on the AI side and the
Mm-hmm.
machine learning side, I mean, wouldn't it still kind of be similar though, where it's top down or
Mm,
yeah,
not really, no. Let me explain why.
yeah,
Machine learns mostly, and I'm saying, say, 80% of the cases of today, right? It can be different later on, but as of today, most of the machine learning projects that I've seen in the industry is based on if you have a data set that incorporates the decisions that a human made earlier, and if you have saved those data sets, only then can you create a pattern and can leverage that pattern to project and predict with probability, right? So the classifications we talk about is all about existing data sets. If you don't have a good data set, and depending on what problem you're going to solve, it all depends on that, right? Um, that's what gives you success with machine learning. So a very simple question at the beginning itself with projects which will use machine learning is, do we have sufficiency of data? Can we feature engineer it? And can we get the results in a consistent manner depending based on any model that's out there, right? So it's very
yeah,
centric.
yeah. I hear you. Yeah, so the data piece is a big difference. Got it, got it, got it. And then, yeah, with like, that sort of how a project comes to life, do you find that in a telecom setting at Sprint, it
Mhm.
differs, from your prior experience, or it's kind of the same?
The basic fundamentals are the same, right? Of course, the use cases itself are different only when it comes to specific things, right? For example, if you look at artificial intelligence or machine learning, um, predicting customer behavior or predicting their needs is something that can be in any industry, any retail industry, right? And telecom is a retail in that sense. There are definitely use cases which are different. For example, I don't think any other industry will have a use case for unlocked devices, and we have that, right? But again, if I look at rehire, eligibility check, right? Someone who's at Sprint gets checked to see are they eligible for rehire. That is a use case that can be used anywhere in the industry or by anyone. There's no difference there, right? Or any finance use case would be used by anyone else. I don't think there is any difference there. So it depends on the use cases that we automate most of the time.
Cool. All right, cool. And we'll dig more into use cases in a bit as well. All right, so let's go to the next question here. So, do automation projects often intersect with machine learning projects? And so, to recap, in Sprint, this big telecom company, you have the Intelligent Automation Center of Excellence,
Mm-hmm.
where Shipra is a leader, and then you have the AI Machine Learning Center of Excellence. So they're different groups. How do they intersect? Is it common that they intersect? Not common? What ties them together? Is there a person who orchestrates between the two, or do they just collaborate? How does that work?
It's so at Sprint, we are more collaborative. And the reason it is because this machine learning is just not one group, right? There could be so many other things. For example, you can have a digital center of excellence, which actually takes care of chatbots, right? There is another section of center of excellence which cares of, like I said, the data sets or getting the insights from data. There could be another center of excellence which does APIs. If you think about them for automation, all those people are needed to do a process automation, right? So what happens is usually I will take the intake, and then depending on who I need to engage, there'll be a path determination where we sit down and say, who are the components or who are the people in these in the solutioning that's necessary to collaborate, right? And then that's how we get started.
Got it. Got it. Oh, so there. there's an API
Oh,
COE. There's it. Wow, I didn't appreciate that. So so Sprint is set up into many COEs, each with a specific kind of focus.
I would call them COEs. I would call them groups,
Groups. Okay, fair enough.
right? Because I don't know what they call themselves sometimes. They might not call themselves COEs. It all depends.
Got it. And then it brings me to another question. So
Mhm.
how do all these groups and functions and the IA, COE, what how do they relate to IT? Like, are they becoming IT? And what is IT doing if, the intelligent automation COE is automating everything for people? I guess
We are not automating everything. We actually hand it off to IT. So when I said the API group, that's under IT, right? The RPA group, the RPA developers are under IT, right? The machine learning group can be between two groups, between IT and business, right? Depends on how the company is set up. For us, our machine learning group is not IT yet, but there is a group within IT. But our API is IT, our RPA is IT, the chatbot digital team is non-IT. So it all depends. It's all over the place right now.
that's interesting. Yeah, I mean everyone's still figuring it out.
And API is
Um,
under IT too, I think. Yes, it is under IT. So,
Interesting. Interesting. Okay, let's jump to the next question. This will be a good one. This is use cases. Okay, so what are some of the top examples that you've seen of automation and AI projects within telecom?
oh, several. I mean, we have, I think, 67 or 73 use cases automated.
Well,
Uh, so, so yes, there's many of those, right? Many of them are to do with finance. We started with finance, and those are very common, like I said, because finance was the first, I think, industry that adopted automation from any of the other industries, right? Historically. And then we have a lot of automations with our network team. Again, they came up with their own automations and they did what they needed to do. And they actually build their own bots. So these are, network engineers build their own bots to solve their own problem. Automations coming in. We have care automations, like I said, unlock device being one of them, right? And actually, I have talked about 5 use cases in telecom again in Automation Anywhere's Imagine. If you want, I can send you the URL. So, you know, many of them are there. Then HR has some automations there. One of the ones from finance, which is very interesting, is it also fixes master data. For example, when customers come in or potential customers come in and do some credit card application to get some free stuff or some promotion or something like that, but they never follow through to create an account. So, right, these accounts are all getting created all over the place, and someone needs to clean it up after some time. Of course, IT never had the time, or no one wants to spend the budget to clean up because master data cleanup is not an easy thing. So we actually created bots to do that. And not only did we create the bots to clean up the inactive accounts, we went to the flip side and also updated the FICO site saying these credit card applications should be closed. Very
nice.
interesting use cases, but they're very specific. And that's what happens with business processes, right? You need to go very specific to make it into the automation use case.
Right. Yeah, totally. And then are there any things on like the AI machine learning side, examples that have made you go, wow, that's so cool that we can do that within a telecom company.
Oh, absolutely. So one thing that I did, not in Sprint, but before Sprint, was reverse audit. So, one of the things that happens is many times telecoms, and this is from, again, IT tax perspective, not IT, finance tax perspective, where, people can get charged sales taxes, right? But it could be miscategorized, misaligned, or something like that. And if you categorize it rightly, you might get tax refunds. And you can use machine learning depending on the company, how much they have data sets, how much feature engineering can be done to see if auditors have classified it this way. Hey, can we reclassify it using machine learning model, right? So it's again learning and training and redoing. Another one that I did again earlier is GL code classification. Like, you have your expenses coming in. Depending on those expense heads, someone actually goes down and codes them, right? You can use ML to do that. You don't need kind of someone to do that. If you have the data set, you can leverage that data set and map it to your GL codes, right? There is customer predictions. very much a big thing for any retail, not just telecom, right? So yeah.
Yeah, yeah, those are some good examples. Um, yeah, and then telecom, right? So I guess like the most unique thing really within telecom, that other industries don't have is the network piece.
Yes.
Um, and I guess yeah, thinking about the network, right? How has intelligent automation and AI machine learning just I guess improved network operations?
Of course. I mean, I can, this is the thing. Like I said, first finance and the second adopters at Sprint was network. And the reason being, they understood the potential of automation and machine learning can bring to their industry, to their functions, right? They are the, I would say, the second adopters and the fast adopters. They just understood, they got it, they started running with it, right? And if you think about it, this 5G revolution coming in, right? It's going to change the way that telecom's doing business today. Because instead of 4G, 5G is going to make you enable your IoTs, make it more API centric. You can create more microservices. All these would be based on automations as well as like narrow artificial intelligences. So I can see a big disruption coming with 5G for telecom.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. Actually, I have a question that we're gonna get to on
Oh,
5G.
sorry.
Oh, no worries, no worries. I'm excited to talk more about that. It's a fascinating subject. Okay, let's jump to the next question. Always an interesting one. So, how do you evaluate, working with third-party AI automation vendors? Yeah, how's that process?
It's a, there is a whole kind of, I would say a mechanism to it. In fact, there is a vendor evaluation methodology that comes with it, right? And a lot of it has to do with, and especially because the vendors are evolving, almost sometimes dictating the story in intelligent automation, you have to be at top of their capability. Like, what can they do? What are they promising? What promises they are also succeeding in executing in a enterprise way, not like small business, but can large businesses adopt them, right? Big part is security. If the automations they're bringing in cannot be secured, or you can't enforce security on them, as business practices, big, large business, we're not interested, right? So, credential vaults become very important. Of course, their pricing mechanism becomes very important, depending on are they cloud or are they in-prem, do they offer both, becomes important. These are like big ticket decision making that goes with what your company is comfortable with. For example, I can say if Sprint wasn't big on cloud computing, right? We don't want things on cloud. Now, we might change, but this was our past stance. So you have to understand your company's stance on where you stand, and then you evaluate your vendors. That's a big part of it. Like, understand the company's philosophy before going to the vendor, and then look at the capability, look at the pricing. Are you big into investment upfront or as a service, right? All of them support these things. And the maturity of the product itself. Because, at the end of the day, you need a bot, you want a bot, but you also want the features which would give you the measurement, which would give you the logging capabilities of a bot, because this is a person that you want auditability, right? And also if they can explore and find out opportunities for you, because process mining is becoming a big thing now, right? Especially with intelligent automation. So
Yeah, yeah, I definitely hear you. Yeah, that's interesting, right? So just understanding the sort of overarching company philosophies around certain things, like right, if Sprint doesn't want to go cloud, then you can't work with a vendor whose product exclusively lives on a cloud, I presume.
exactly.
Yeah, that's interesting though. That's interesting.
So
Um,
it's at a crossroad, and company cultures are also changing. So you do have to keep on top of that.
yeah, yeah, I hear you. And then, so separately from like, right, evaluating the vendor, do they fit within Sprint policies?
Mhm.
How do you decide, versus like use the vendor or build in-house? Because I presume, Sprint has many data science teams and
Yep.
technical chops to build pretty much anything. Um, and I guess, yeah, like which are there different? do different functions, like will network, not use things from outside because it's just too sensitive? Or is it totally like case by case basis?
It's a very case by case basis and a BU by BU basis, business unit basis, right? For example, there could be some where you're getting the knowledge because you don't have it in house. So you get external consultants to teach you that, and then you become self enabled and you start doing it, right? For example, even with our IACOE, we got started with external consultants first, and then we kind of started building our own capability and kind of absorbing it. So it's definitely case by case basis about do you use consultants or do you use in-house?
Got it. Understood. That makes sense. Okay, so let's jump to the next question. Hey Vignesh, I see your comment there. Thank you. The next question is extremely telecom related, so you will be pleased. How is 5G going to impact AI and automation within the industry?
Yes, I would say again, I'm going to almost say I am not a telecom expert. As you heard, I joined telecom beginning of the year, right? What I can bring to the table is how telecom can morph. And my understanding of 5G, very limited, but I do see a future where 5G is going to kind of bring more of automation, bring more of machine learning, bring more of API into the forefront and make sure that it gets used. And the people who are going to exploit it the most would kind of try move at the front level, right? So
Yeah.
it's a change. It's a change of how the architecture of telecom is going to be and what the players are going to be.
Yeah, it's interesting. I, for whatever reason, feel skeptical about the timelines involved with 5G. I see, I use whatever AT&T, and I think they show 5G on my thing, but I'm like, no, it's not. Why you show me that? And I guess, you know, maybe this is even more just an industry gossip question than a hardcore business ops question. But like, is 5G, pending? What's your gut or expectation as to when, there'll be like widespread, rollout across the industry?
So I think 5G is used and touted right now, like you said, but the full capability of 5G will come in only when these services get enabled. It's almost like, if you think of Netscape versus if you think of internet today, you can see the difference, right? I don't know if you know about Netscape. It's way old.
Yeah, I know Netscape. I know Netscape.
That's what AOL and Netscape was, right? It's just communication between people. But now you can see how internet has given rise to all these services. And 5G has the potential to do that. That's what I believe in. But are we there yet? Of course not. People need to understand, people need to build on it, and only then we will start leveraging it and using it.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess right, because with 5G, there's just these massive, right? It's just huge infrastructure hurdles around building so many, shorter range towers.
Mhm.
I feel like it's going to take forever. I feel like it's going to be like 10 years from now, and I'm still not going to actually have 5G. I mean, is that fair or is that off base?
I, I do not know. Truly speaking, that's one place I do not know. Like I said, 5G for me is a new thing, and
Yeah.
right, so I don't want to comment on that at all.
Yeah, fair
I'm
enough.
waiting for it to materialize so that I can start using it in business. That's where I am.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely hear you. Um, yeah. Okay, cool. Let's go to the next question. If anybody has any questions, feel free to type them through chat. We are open for business.
Or if
Okay.
anyone has any opinions, I'm curious to know if anyone has opinions on 5G. Truly, Michael. I mean, truly.
Yeah, yeah, or opinions. Yeah, share it all. All right. So this is my last planned question. So what do you envision as the future of AI, and IA in telecom?
I think it's here to stay. I don't think that you can survive without it, and not just telecom, but I would say any industry most of the early adopters are these new companies, right? If you think about it, Uber uses AI all the time, right? So is all these new companies, if you think about their progress and the speed and velocity of how they're going and the value they're creating, they have embraced, not only embraced, but that's their way of life almost with intelligent automation and artificial intelligence, right? The big companies who are embracing, of course, is it's a slow move, it's a slow change, but I think you have to at the end of the day because that's the future.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
definitely agree with that.
yeah, if you think about COVID, all of us working from home, right? Do you think this was possible even like 10 years ago? No. So, that's progress. That comes with a change. And AI and IA is going to drive that change.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Do you have a sense? Right, so telecom as an industry when it comes to AI and IA is interesting because it's kind of a small industry. There's just a few big companies, which is different from most of the other industries that we think about, like banking or healthcare or retail. And yeah, I know, right? I know you're relatively new to the industry, but do you think that yeah the four major telcos, um, or I guess is it three now? Um,
Yeah.
you think that it's, each company is approaching like AI and IA in kind of a similar way? Or are there like divergent views when it comes to, how to build IA and AI capabilities within a large telco?
I think all of them are doing it. Like Verizon, AT&T, Sprint definitely were doing it. T-Mobile coming in has started the journey. So definitely everyone is engaged and exploring as well as implementing, right? Automation has been there in Verizon and AT&T for some time, and at Sprint for some time. Um, T-Mobile with Sprint today will have that also, right? Because Sprint is T-Mobile now. So all of them do have the capability, and I'm sure they want to invest in it. Um, the differentiator would be, how much they want to expose, because as you said, there's only three, so learning from each other is big, right? And that's what we have to see how they want to keep the competitive advantage as well as leverage.
Yeah.
That's the characteristic of telecom I'm observing, which I didn't see as much in, I would say, finance. Even though they kept their IP together, they also shared in a sense, right? Because it's common functionality.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, it's tricky. Maybe it's just so highly competitive because there's so few. But I don't know. Like we have at our our big digital event in August, like we have a couple people from Verizon speaking, and
Hmm.
I spoke with them on the phone, and it seems like yeah, like they're able to be pretty candid with like their use cases and how they're thinking about it. So I don't know. I think maybe I guess maybe I'm optimistic.
Yeah. Now I'm reading some questions on the chat with the network fault tolerance predictions. I don't have details on it. Like I said, I was trying to get Waylon in here, and she is from network, so she would be a good addition. We'll see if you can get her, and might be able to answer some of these. But like I said, the NFP one I can't say. The customer engagement, I do know that we do a lot of AI on churn predictions, on a lot of, what plans would people kind of go for, who we can send the promotions to, things like that.
That's cool. Does the IA does IA come in at all with the customer engagement piece, or is it really in just the realm of
These
AI?
are IA mostly.
Say it again.
These are, sorry, these are all machine learning, the ones that I talked about. The
Right.
way IA comes in is, think about it, it's a process, right? Once you know that someone needs this promotion or something, right? You have an SPF action or something like that. What IA will do is come in and actually do that process for you. So a care person may or may not even kind of call to do it, or if they call, they assist the care person with the automation behind the scenes.
Got it. Got it. Hopefully that was helpful, Adith. And then you have Vignesh. I'm going to see if I can track down an answer for you on your network fault predictions question. I'm sure we can. I'm gonna write that down. And then curious to hear about like problems and hurdles. So, you come from this long background of IT and machine learning and intelligent automation. You come fresh to this new industry, telecom, in this telco sprint. Like, was it a total shit show, when you showed up? Or like, did they have it going pretty well? And, if someone were in your shoes now, entering, as a leader in an intelligent automation team within another telco, like what would they what should they what do you wish you knew, a year ago?
So I think so. The person who used to lead this program before me was the SVP of transformation strategy, right? And she came in, she didn't have the background of intelligent automation. So I think the few things that I learned when I took it over and I corrected is that the intake process has to be very streamlined. People need to understand what it means. People need to understand what they're doing and how they're doing it. So the intake process, I think, is very critical for succeeding in automations, right? That's one. The second part is the value creation. Like, don't take any intake. You have to understand, because if you're a process owner, you need to know why you're doing what you're doing. So the intake and the value creation are the two big components I would advise everyone to look at before you attempt automation. Because if you don't get those two, you will never get adoption. People don't want to do things just for the heck of it, right? They want to show that, yes, there's success. And because I did this, this is the result of it. So those two became kind of the key changes that kind of I focused mostly on upfront. And it can be done upfront because many times, people are enamored with the idea of using it automation for learning, right? That is great when you want to get started. You want to use it as an adoption culture to change the culture of a company, right? If you have never done automation before, please go and do that because that will make people more engaged, right? They'll all understand and talk about it. So I think it was almost like you need that adoption, you need that hardship up front to go to that next step of acceleration with velocity and value.
Yeah, I vibe. And then, so you were coming from healthcare a lot, right?
Mm-hmm.
And comparing healthcare to telecom, what's like the state of telecom, as an industry when it comes to AI and IA versus healthcare?
Healthcare, I think, is much more driven. They just, I wouldn't say they're huge ahead. They're 1 year ahead, maybe, because healthcare started, I think, the year before, right? 2 years ago, right? Telecom, I would say, started last year. So at least it's Sprint at Verizon. Verizon started way before. Verizon and AT&T started with automation way before, at least dabbling in it. So I would say they started almost at a similar path, but healthcare has, I don't know, much more focus in some senses. And in healthcare also, you have pharma, which I don't know how much they do automation. I don't think they are as fast as healthcare is because healthcare is more like insurance. And if you have seen automation getting adopted, insurance has adopted it most out of healthcare, right? So healthcare got a lot of synergy out of insurance industry that they started practicing and leveraging. And I think with telecom, what I'm seeing is they will adopt a lot more from healthcare industry because very similar, right? If you think about the customer centric, the care, the chats, those things are very similar, right? So I can see that transcend. As far as networks go, I think telecom will be upfront because this is something only they have, right? And they have a lot of data. I mean, telecoms in that sense has a better advantage over other industries because of the data sets they have. They're very data rich. So I can see AI being successful in telecom, definitely.
Nice. Awesome. It's a good note to end on. And then Hilly asked, right, you had mentioned that you gave a talk somewhere or you had some link that you could share, Shipra.
Oh, yes. So here, this is called Automation Anywhere Imagine. if you go, I've also posted it under my LinkedIn. Let me see if I can find it and give it to you right now.
All right, Hilly, it's coming. All right, everybody. So, we're going to wrap up soon. Are there any other thoughts, questions, opinions, really anything that you'd like to share before we say goodbye? No pressure. And Vignesh, I have your question down, so I'm going to try and get you an answer. I should have your email too since you signed up, so no worries there.
Okay, this is where I get lost of my posts. Let me send it to you, Michael, and you can forward it to the team instead of trying to solve it right here.
Okay, that's fine. Or if it's on your LinkedIn profile, maybe just post your LinkedIn.
It is. So you can look me up, and it's in the LinkedIn profile under post.
Yeah. Yeah, so if you find her LinkedIn, then you'll find her post.
Right.
Okay. All right. So with that, Shipra, I want to give you a massive thank you from me and AI4 for spending some time with us. Yeah, it's a very interesting conversation. I think, yeah, some interesting takeaways. I mean, right, so Sprint, you're figuring it out. You're figuring out AI and IA. You have many different teams, it sounds like, some of which you consider COEs, some are just, like the API team is just its own team, which is under IT. And then it sounds like, right, business units themselves will do their own automation projects if it's not too complex, it sounds like. And then it sounds like the biggest push is coming from top down. So, executive team saying, okay, we got to cut costs. Here, the only one's going to happen is with IA, and then IA comes in and says, okay, this is what we can automate. Let's activate different parts of the company to make this happen. Yeah, that makes sense. And right, it sounds like network is adopting strongly now, which also makes sense. And then, right, you mentioned a lot of customer AI examples from predicting churn to what they're going to buy. And then you mentioned some finance AI and IA examples. And then some, basic uses like OCR and some NLP stuff on the AI side. Cool. I think we covered a lot of ground. This was great.
You're welcome. You're welcome. And like I said, they're all merging together. Like when you look at a tool, they do AI, they do machine learning. When you read emails and try to contextualize it, that's machine learning, right? That's NLP for you. So RPA, AI, API, all of them kind of are merging together in the new products coming over. So that's the interesting part.
Yeah, it's the evolution of software.
Yep.
All right, Shipra, have an amazing week. Thank you again. Thank you, everybody, for joining. I wish you a happy, healthy week, and I'll see you digitally somewhere else.
Thank you.
Bye, Shipra.
Bye.